Okay, 1621 Bhagavad Gita, as it is by Swami Prabhupada. This talks about the three gates to hell, how to go to hell. If somebody says go to hell, then you should say, okay, I know how to go to hell. Do you know how to go to hell? Like that. So let's read the Sanskrit. Trivadham narakasidham
त्रिविधं नरकाशेदं
dwaram nasanam atmanah
द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः
kamah krodhasthatha lobhas
कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभस्
tasmadetattrayam tajet.
तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजे.
There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Right? So, our soul is degraded by lust, anger, and greed. So, first, our senses will look at something, we get attracted to it, lust develops, and from lust, anger develops. Um, if lust is fulfilled, anger doesn't develop. If lust is fulfilled, then greed is developed. So if you want, you know, one home and then that is fulfilled, then greed develops. I want a second home now. And if one home is not fulfilled because home prices are too expensive, he cannot afford it, then anger develops. Right? So ultimately, both are coming from lust only. And how does lust come? When you contemplate on the objects of senses, lust arises. So this is from the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Kame, what does that say? Dhyayato vishayam pumsha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama krodha bijayate. So from dhyayato vishaya pumshaha. So when you look at objects of your senses, like, beautiful house, beautiful car, beautiful girl or boy, so your senses look at that and then desire arises. Then desire becomes strong, it becomes lust. And lust is fulfilled, okay, well and good. You want more of it. If lust is not fulfilled, it will transform into anger. Kamesha krodesha rajoguna samudbhavaha. So from kama comes krodha. Why? Because of rajogun, mode of passion. So we should come out of mode of passion. Entire America is in mode of passion. Even if you want to do devotional activity, you're still in mode of passion initially, and slowly that will transform. So Sarvana, read the purport.
Yes, Prabhu. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. The beginning of demoniac life is described herein. One tries to satisfy his lust, and when he cannot, anger and greed arise. A sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement.
Yeah, so you cannot get liberated, impossible. That is why nobody is getting liberated in this world, right? Everybody will be suffering only. Very few get liberated. You can count on fingers. You can say every year 10 people are getting liberated out of 8 billion people on the planet. That's hardly anything. So now the question is how to join that list of 10 people liberated every year. एतैर्विमुक्तः कौन्तेय
एतैर्विमुक्तः कौन्तेय
तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः
तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः
आचरति आत्मनः श्रेयस्
आचरति आत्मनः श्रेयस्
ततो याति परां गतिम्.
ततो याति परां गतिम्.
The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Right? So when we do conducive acts, conducive to self-realization means to realize that you are not the body, but you are the soul. And soul is a part of Krishna, eternally separated. And beauty of the soul is to serve the whole. W-H-O-L-E. Whole means the whole part. If we are doing such activities, then we gradually attain the supreme destination. Not in one shot, because this is not like a binary, yes, no. So gradually we have to prove that we are eligible to return back home to the kingdom of God, like that. Okay, Shiva, please read.
Hare Krishna. One should be very careful of these three enemies to human life: lust, anger, and greed. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literature. By following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to raise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. In the Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come to the stage of purification. The whole method is based on giving up lust, greed, and anger. By cultivating knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self realization. This self realization is perfected in devotional service. In that devotional service, the liberation of the conditioned soul is guaranteed. Therefore,
Hare Krishna Shiva, we cannot hear you.
he will be automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Then he, little bit of Prabhu. Then he can have liberation without a doubt.
Lost most of your speaking, some network connection issue, but I think we have been reading it, so that's okay. So we have to cultivate knowledge of this process. If we do that, then we can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. This self-realization is not the end. This is perfected in devotional service. And by doing that devotional service, liberation of conditioned soul is guaranteed. According to the Vedic systems, there are 4 orders of life and 4 status of life called the caste system, Varnashrama system, and the spiritual order system. Varna and Ashrama. Varna means like Brahmana Kshatriya, Ashrama means Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, like that. If a person is able to follow them, he'll automatically be raised to highest platform. That is why these farm communities, where we can actually raise our consciousness to that level, are recommended. These farm communities are recommended. So as I was talking last time, moving to the farm communities is the best way to do this activity. Eventually, you may not be able to do it today, but eventually. So now Lord Krishna talks about what happens if you give up these spiritual rules and injunctions, right? So rules and regulations. Yaha shastra vidimustrija
Yaha Shastra Vidim Utsurjya
vartate kamakarataha
Vartate Kamakarataha
nasa siddhim avapnoti
Sa Siddhima Vapnoti
nasukam na param gatim.
Nasukamna Param Gatim.
He who discards means give up, throw away, scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims. So he creates his own rules. And such a person attains neither perfection nor happiness. So no perfection, no happiness. Means perfection in the progress to the supreme destination, nor happiness. As described before, the Shastra Vidhi or direction of Shastra is given to different castes and orders of human society. Everyone is expected to follow these rules and regulations. If one does not follow them and acts whimsically according to his what? The three things that we talked about in the beginning of the class, right? Then he will never be perfect in his life. So our action should not be dictated by lust, greed. Today, that's what our actions are mostly dictated by. If somebody gives us $10,000 more, we might jump our job. Whatever you see, if something is a beautiful car, you'll say, I want it. Whether you need it or not is very different topic. Most people don't need what they want, right? Most people don't need them. But why are they doing it? Either they have money or they have the desire. So they'd buy it. That's it, right? Because when I came to America 25 years ago, people were very simple compared to where we are right now. Most people, they would have one car all their life like that, right? I have seen my colleagues driving 20, 22-year-old cars, right? And they would just have like a 3-bedroom home and they will pretty much work and live and retire in that home. Like even today, Warren Buffett stays in his 1967 home. He never moved out. Never moved out. 67, that is 33 years there and 20 years here. 53 years, he'll get his home repaired, but he never moved out. Right? Although he's like the 4th richest or 5th richest man in the world. So that was the standard. But now people are doing all kinds of things. Right? They'll change their car every 3 years. So this materialism will actually increase lust and greed. That's why that whole thing about moving to farms is why? Because then you don't have any option to have greed. All you're seeing is a plant grow. You'll wake up, you'll water the plants, one day you'll harvest, and harvesting is only like once in 3 months or 6 months. So after you plant and they are growing, you may do weeding here and there, but you don't do much, right? So your greed goes down. But if you live in the city, like if you live in Redmond, Bellevue, Dallas, places like that, greed has a high chance of growing in us. I know that because I also live in a city. So I know how this thought process operates on our body and our mind. Okay. So yeah, Sarvana, read from there. In other words.
In other words, a man may theoretically know all these things, but if he does not apply them in his own life, then he is to be known as the lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, a living entity is expected to be sane and to follow the regulations given for elevating his life to the highest platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself. But even if he follows the rules and regulations and moral principles and ultimately does not come to the stage of understanding the Supreme Lord, then all his knowledge becomes spoiled. And even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, his attempts are spoiled. Therefore, one should gradually raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness and devotional service. It is then and there that he can attain the highest perfectional stage, not otherwise.
Yeah. So like some of my relatives, they say, right, hey, why are you doing this? God is everywhere, right? So why are you worried? Yeah, God is there everywhere. So they pick like 1% of the philosophy and they say God is everywhere. Yeah, God is great. But then they don't do anything about it, right? So that is the type of people Prabhupada is addressing. Even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, his attempts are spoiled, right? So if you think God is great, then you have to serve God, right? How do you serve God? Regularly hearing Bhagavad Gita, chanting Hare Krishna mantra for at least 2 hours every day, 16 rounds, doing practical service in the temple. It's not theoretical, right? You do practical service to your boss. That's why he gives you the paycheck. It's not theoretical. Yes. I know how Microsoft operates. Yeah, you know how Microsoft operates, but unless you go and work there, you won't get your salary. Same thing here. You may know existence of God or even that God is great, but unless you serve him, you won't get the result. This is a spiritual paycheck. So to get the spiritual paycheck, you have to serve the Lord. So it may not happen in one day because of so many real and perceived challenges. Most of them are perceived challenges, right? Oh, Prabhu, I have to take my son to Taekwondo. Okay. But then how is Taekwondo helping you become a better devotee? No. Then cut it out, right? So most of the responsibilities we have in the modern world are self-imposed. They are not real responsibilities, fake responsibilities. So only by doing that we can attain to the highest perfection stage. Yeah. Okay, continue.
The word kama karataha is very significant. A person who knowingly violates the rules acts in lust. He knows that this is forbidden, but still he acts. This is called acting whimsically. He knows that this should be done, but still he does not do it. Therefore, he is called whimsical. Such persons are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Such persons cannot have the perfection which is meant for the human life. The human life is especially meant for purifying one's existence, and one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself, nor can he attain the real stage of happiness.
So kama karataha, we are doing karataha means acting. Karta, they say, right? Karta karma kriya. So karta means actual doing something. Kama means under the influence of lust. So who knowingly violates the rules, which is all of us. We know that we should serve God every day. Are we? We are not. At least we are doing Bhagavad Gita once a week. But it should be a daily process. It should be a 24/7 process. Right? So if we knowingly violate, then what happens? It is called a whimsical approach. And we are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Which means we are knowingly saying, we are knowingly making a mistake, and we know that the Lord is going to punish us. This is our state. Right? So is Riya with you, Sarvana?
No, Prabhu, she's not.
She's in that other class, is it?
Yeah, no, she's. I think she's going to take a nap, Prabhu.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, previously she used to come regularly.
Yeah, exactly.
And Vijay Mataji?
Yeah, she's also with Riya, Prabhu.
Yeah, she should attend these classes. Otherwise, how will she progress? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what it is. We know, yes, Shastra Vedam Ustrija. We know that it is important, but we don't do it. And what will happen? We'll be condemned by the Lord. And then you cannot blame the Lord because He gave the rules already. Right? He gave the rules and we don't follow, then we'll be condemned. We'll see forest fires, we'll see corona, we'll see unemployment. Even our president is under corona right now. Why all these things are happening? Because we are not following the rules. Previously, even just like 50 years ago, I remember, human beings didn't have so many problems. Nowadays, we are having so many problems. Why? Because we are condemned by the Lord for not following the rules. When we follow the rules, the Lord will give more slack, as they say in English, SLACK. Right? If you have a dog that's well behaved, then you will not put a chain on its collar. You'll leave it. When guest comes, the dog won't bother the guests. But if you have an Alsatian dog, whenever some guest comes, it goes and bites their leg. Then what will you do? You'll put the dog always under a chain. Same thing. We are making mistakes, and Srila Prabhupada says knowingly violates the rules, acts in lust. Right? He says here, knowingly violates the rules, acts in lust. So if you're knowingly doing it, then what will he do? Destined to be condemned by the Lord. Condemned means, okay, you are useless, get out. You will suffer, man, like that. When you say statements like that, you are condemning somebody. So the Lord is also saying, since you are violating the rules, I will condemn you. So many pains we are having right now. Corona.
Oh,
Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are destined to be condemned, and we are being condemned right now. Like the other day, I was seeing in the news, there was a winery in Napa Valley. The fire came close to the winery, and the entire building got burnt. Entire building.
So it's right. Oh, it's on the Zoom.
So human life is especially meant for purifying one's existence. Only humans can purify existence. Animals cannot purify their existence, right? And one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself. Rules are meant for purification. The whole human existence is meant for purification. Dogs and cats cannot purify themselves. So I'm going to show you a video. That's me, Radhika Gopinath Das. Where is the thing that I posted? +8 more. Or maybe I posted in my other account. Rise. I put it as rise, but that is not there here. Where is add sign out? So there's a video I want you to watch. So let's see if I can find it now. Radhika Gopinath Das, years ago. How did that happen? I know I posted it. Okay, cannot see when you want it. Show it to you next time. So 1624. Tasma Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Vyavastitau
कार्य व्यवस्थितौ
Nyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं
Karma Kartumiharasi.
कर्म कर्तुम् ईहार्हसि.
One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So, Sarvana, please read the purport.
Purport. As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and eat the remnants of foodstuff offered to the deity. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all Vedic literature. He has come to the conclusion perfectly. Of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness or who are not engaged in devotional service, what is to be done and what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or scripture. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the conditioned soul: imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas, and great souls.
So imperfect senses, propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. Every soul has these four challenges. Senses cannot see, hear, or taste very much. There is a propensity for cheating, to cover up things, to make us look good. There's certainty of committing mistakes. We all make mistakes. That's why we have this propensity of cheating to cover up. And certainty of being illusion. So these four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one. So we cannot put rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are described in Shastra. Rules and regulations are described in Shastra. Because Shastras are above these four defects. And when they are not altered, without alteration, then all the great saints, acharyas, and great souls will accept this. Okay, continue.
In India, there are many parties of spiritual understanding, generally classified as two: the impersonalist and the personalist. Both of them, however, lead their lives according to the principles of the Vedas. Without following the principles of the scriptures, one cannot elevate himself to the perfectional stage. One who actually, therefore, understands the purport of the Shastras is considered fortunate. In human society, aversion to the principles of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all fall downs. That is the greatest offense of human life. Therefore, Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of material nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understanding the Supreme Lord can be opened. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. Those in the modes of passion and ignorance deride the scriptures, deride the holy man, and deride the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They disobey the instructions of the spiritual master, and they do not care for the regulations of the scriptures. In spite of hearing the glories of devotional service, they are not attracted. Thus, they manufacture their own way of elevation. These are some of the defects of human society which lead to the demoniac status of life. If, however, one is able to be guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation to the higher stage, then one's life becomes successful. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, so we finished divine and demoniac natures. So broadly, demons deride the scriptures and say, oh, why do you need Bhagavad Gita? Why do you need, Srimad Bhagavatam, like that? And they deride the holy man. They say, oh, he's a sannyasi. Maybe he didn't get a good job. That's why he became a sannyasi. Like that. Instead of respecting the genuine sannyasi, some people are there like that also. They make that a profession, right? They become a sannyasi so that they can beg and make some money. But that is different. Here, a genuine holy man is to be respected, but some people deride. Deride means they insult him. And they deride the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality. So God is a person, they'll say God is just an energy. God is just like, somebody who's just a little superior to me. He's a little bit more powerful than me, but beyond that, there's nothing great like that. And they disobey the instructions of spiritual master. The demons never follow the spiritual master's instructions. And they don't care for regulations of the scriptures. For example, like sex should be had only with your spouse, and then they say, oh, that is not correct. We'll do with anybody and everybody, like dogs. And such people will be born as dogs in their next life. Dog is considered to be the most abominable being. And nowadays, modern times, people are maintaining dogs in home. If you have to maintain a animal, it should be a cow, not a dog. Yeah. So if we can get to a bona fide spiritual master, who will lead to the path of elevation to higher stage. So we all found the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada and his disciples. Now we have to take initiation from them and take to the next step. So that finishes chapter 16, divine and demoniac natures. Now chapter 17.